Welcome to another episode of Thailand Truth Talks. If you're a UK citizen watching this, planning your retirement in Thailand, I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you. Because the dream you've been sold about retiring in the land of smiles is being systematically dismantled, and most of you don't even realize it's happening. This is the first episode in a series examining how different nationalities are faring in Thailand. And I'm starting with the UK because, quite frankly, you've drawn the shortest straw. While over 40,000 British citizens have already made Thailand their home, betting their retirement years on warm weather, affordable living, and a better quality of life, the reality is shifting beneath their feet and not in their favor. Today, I'm going to walk you through a timeline that reveals an uncomfortable truth. Thailand is quietly pivoting away from the average retiree and rolling out the red carpet exclusively for the wealthy. The question isn't whether this is happening. The question is whether you can afford to ignore it. Let's go back about a decade. Thailand in the mid 2010s was a retiree's paradise, especially if you were British. The exchange rate was reasonable. The visa process, while bureaucratic, was manageable. The cost of living was a fraction of what you'd pay in Manchester or London. Your UK state pension, even if modest, could genuinely stretch to cover a comfortable lifestyle. Rent in Thailand ran about 60% cheaper than in the UK. Food costs were half to two-thirds of British prices. You could eat out regularly, employ domestic help, travel around Southeast Asia, and still have money left over. Bangkok, Chiang Mai, and Phuket became magnets for British expats. These cities offered everything: international communities where you could still catch a Premier League match at the pub, healthcare that was shockingly affordable and often higher quality than NHS waiting lists, and a climate that made those damp British winters feel like a distant nightmare. Phuket especially attracted retirees who wanted beach life without the Mediterranean price tag. The dream was real, and it was accessible. The retirement visa requirements were straightforward. You needed to show 800,000 baht in a Thai bank account, roughly 18,000 pounds at the time. Or you could prove a monthly income of 65,000 baht. That was it. No mandatory insurance requirements. No complicated financial gymnastics. Just prove you had the means to support yourself, and Thailand welcomed you with open arms. For many British retirees, this was the payoff for decades of work, of enduring cold weather, of paying into a system that felt increasingly stacked against pensioners. Thailand offered dignity, comfort, and a genuine sense that your pension pound had real purchasing power. It was a fair deal. Both sides benefited. But here's where the story takes a turn. In 2016, Thailand introduced the non-immigrant OX visa, a 10-year-long stay option for nationals from select countries, including the UK. On the surface, this looked like good news. A decade of guaranteed residency, less paperwork, more stability, and it was good news if you had the money. Because while the standard retirement visa remained available, the OX visa signaled something important. Thailand was beginning to tier its retirees. The OX required higher financial thresholds and was clearly designed for wealthier applicants. This was the first hint that Thailand was evaluating retirees not just as people seeking a peaceful retirement, but as economic units to be optimized. Around the same period, Thai inflation was ticking upward. While still modest by global standards, consumer prices were rising. Street food got slightly more expensive, rent crept up in popular expat areas, healthcare costs, while still lower than the UK, began trending upward as private hospitals modernized and expanded. For most retirees, these increases were manageable, annoying, but manageable. But here's the kick in the teeth that many UK retirees didn't fully appreciate at the time. While their costs in Thailand were slowly rising, their UK state pensions weren't. Thailand isn't on the UK government's list of countries where pensions receive annual uprating. If you retire in Thailand, your state pension gets frozen at whatever amount it was when you left the UK or when you first claimed it. No cost of living increases, no adjustments for inflation, nothing. While your mates back in Birmingham were getting their triple lock increases every year, you were stuck with the same payment, year after year after year. Think about what that means. The UK introduced the triple lock guarantee. Pensions rise by whichever is highest among inflation, average wage growth, or 2.5%. In theory, it protects pensioners. In practice, it only protects pensioners who live in the right countries, and Thailand isn't one of them. So while Thailand's costs were rising, even modestly, and while pensions back home were increasing by 10, sometimes 15% in a single year, British retirees in Thailand were locked into a slowly deteriorating financial position. They just didn't realize it yet because Thai inflation was low and the baht was relatively weak. The problem was building quietly, like water damage behind the wall. Then COVID hit and everything changed. Thailand closed its borders. Retirees who left Thailand to visit family in the UK found themselves trapped. Some couldn't return for months. Those who stayed in Thailand faced harsh quarantine requirements, piles of paperwork, and constant uncertainty about visa renewals. The laid back, welcoming Thailand they'd retired to suddenly felt bureaucratic and unwelcoming. But the real damage came in the policy changes that followed. When Thailand reopened, they didn't just flip a switch and return to normal. They used the pandemic as an opportunity to restructure their entire approach to foreign retirees. All long stay retirees on OA and OX visas were suddenly required to carry Thai health insurance covering COVID 19 with a minimum coverage of 3 million baht. This wasn't optional. No insurance, no visa renewal. And here's the problem. Many retirees, especially those over 70, found that insurance either unaffordable or completely unavailable. Some insurance companies wouldn't even quote policies for applicants over a certain age. Imagine being 75 years old, having lived in Thailand for a decade, and suddenly being told you need to purchase insurance that costs more than your monthly pension, or leave. That was the reality for many British retirees. Some scrambled to find workarounds. Others gave up and went home. The lucky ones found insurance, but at eye-watering premiums that gutted their monthly budgets. This was when many UK retirees realized they weren't in control of their retirement. They were guests, and the terms of their invitation could change at any moment. As if mandatory insurance wasn't enough, Thailand then changed the core retirement visa requirements. The rules that had been stable for years suddenly shifted. Now, you needed both 800,000 baht in a Thai bank account and a monthly income of 65,000 baht, or you needed to show combined savings and income totaling 80,000 baht per month. Previously, you could qualify with just a bank deposit or just the income. Now, Thailand wanted proof that you had both steady income and substantial savings. For many British retirees, this was a bridge too far. Why? Because the frozen pension problem was now coming home to roost. When you first moved to Thailand in, say, 2015, your UK state pension might have been enough to meet the income requirement. But by 2023, with no increases for 8 years while UK domestic pensions had risen over 50%, your frozen pension was no longer sufficient. You'd need private pension income or investment income to make up the shortfall. And the bank deposit requirement? 800,000 baht might not sound like much to some, but when you're living on a fixed income that's been frozen for years, building or maintaining that savings buffer becomes progressively harder, especially when healthcare costs are rising, insurance is mandatory, and inflation, even modest Thai inflation, is eroding your purchasing power. Let's do the math. A British retiree in Thailand was with a frozen state pension from 2015 would have missed out on multiple years of triple lock increases. Over 10 years, analysis showed this cost individual retirees tens of thousands of pounds. One estimate suggests 450,000 Britons living abroad and non-operating countries have collectively lost access to enormous sums they would have received had they stayed in the UK. You worked your entire life in Britain. You paid your national insurance contributions. And because you chose to retire in Thailand instead of Spain or the United States, countries that do receive upgrading, you're penalized. That's not a retirement dream. That's a slow motion financial disaster. But while average British retirees were struggling with frozen pensions and tighter visa requirements, Thailand was rolling out the red carpet for the wealthy. And they weren't subtle about it. In 2022, Thailand announced a long-term resident visa program, which went into full effect in 2024. One category under this program is specifically called wealthy pensioner. To qualify, you need to show unearned annual income of at least 80,000 US dollars. That's approximately 60,000 pounds per year. Alternatively, you can qualify with lower income if you make substantial investments in Thailand, at least 250,000 US dollars. If you meet these thresholds, Thailand offers you a 10-year visa, fast-track immigration lanes, and here's the thing, a flat 17% personal income tax rate on Thai-sourced income. Compare that to the standard 35% rate that ordinary retirees pay. Thailand is literally offering wealthy retirees a better tax deal than the average British pensioner who's been living there for decades. Then there's the Thailand Elite Visa Program, now rebranded as Thailand Privilege. This is a membership scheme where you essentially buy your way into long-term residency. The cheapest option, a 5-year membership, costs 650,000 baht, roughly 15,000 pounds. But that's just the entry point. Higher tiers offer 10, 15, even 20-year memberships with luxury perks, concierge services, and a VIP treatment at airports. Think about the message Thailand is sending. If you're wealthy, truly wealthy, we'll give you a decade of residency, tax advantages, and white glove service. If you're an average retiree on a modest pension, we'll make you jump through increasingly complex hoops, mandate expensive insurance, require proof of both savings and income, and offer you zero tax benefits. This isn't subtle. This isn't accidental. Thailand has made a strategic decision to pivot toward high net worth individuals. They want retirees who buy property, invest in businesses, spend money on luxury services, and contribute significantly to the economy. The era of Thailand as an affordable retirement haven for working class British pensioners is ending. Let's talk about something that doesn't get enough attention: currency risk. British retirees in Thailand are playing a high stakes game with exchange rates whether they realize it or not. Your pension is paid in pounds sterling. Your expenses are in Thai baht. Every month, you're converting currency. And every month, you're at the mercy of forex markets. When the pound is strong, you're fine. You get more baht per pound, and your purchasing power increases. But when the pound weakens, which it has during various crises, your pension buys less. After Brexit, the pound took a hammering. During periods of UK political instability, it weakened further. And every time it drops, British retirees in Thailand feel it immediately. Your pension payment doesn't change in pounds, but in baht. You're suddenly getting less. That meal at your favorite restaurant just got more expensive. Your rent, if denominated in baht, now takes a bigger chunk of your pound-based income. This creates a vicious cycle. Your pension is frozen, so you have no protection against Thai inflation. Your pension is in pounds, so you have no protection against currency fluctuations. You're exposed on both sides. Meanwhile, retirees back in the UK have their triple lock protection, and they're not dealing with currency risk because they earn and spend in the same currency. Now, Thai inflation has been relatively low. After peaking at around 6% in 2022, it dropped to 1.2% in 2023 and roughly 0.5% in 2024. That's good news. It means your frozen pension isn't being destroyed by runaway price increases, but it's still eroding slowly, steadily, relentlessly. Over 10 or 15 years, even low inflation compounds. A frozen pension in a low inflation environment still loses real purchasing power. And when you combine that with currency risk, the mandatory insurance cost, and the tighter visa requirements, the picture becomes increasingly bleak for average British retirees. Let's address some of the other realities British retirees face in Thailand that often get glossed over in their retirement brochures. Property ownership. You cannot own land in Thailand as a foreigner, period. You can own a condominium, but even that comes with restrictions on the percentage of foreign ownership in any building. Most retirees either rent or buy a condo. The prices are indeed lower than the UK, sometimes drastically so. But you're always aware that you don't have the same property rights you would back home. You can't buy that house with a garden you've been dreaming about. You're limited to condos. And your investment is always subject to Thai laws that could change. Some expats try creative workarounds, like long-term leases or setting up Thai companies to hold property, but these come with legal risks and costs. For most British retirees, the property dream in Thailand is more constrained than they were initially imagined. Healthcare is another complex issue. Thailand has excellent medical facilities, some of the best in Asia. Private hospitals in Bangkok offer world-class care at a fraction of UK private costs. Many retirees rave about Thai healthcare, but there's a catch. The mandatory insurance requirement means you're paying monthly premiums, and as you age, those premiums skyrocket. What starts as manageable at age 60 becomes burdensome at 70 and potentially prohibitive at 80. And here's the dark secret. Many insurance policies have age caps. You might find yourself at 75 unable to renew your policy, which means you can't meet your visa requirements, which means you're forced to leave. Imagine building a life in Thailand for 15 years, only to be told at 75 that you can no longer insure yourself and must therefore leave. That's not a theoretical problem. That's happening to British retirees right now. Public healthcare in Thailand is inexpensive, but often lacks English speaking staff and has longer wait times. Most expats avoid it. So you're dependent on private care and private insurance, both of which are getting more expensive and less accessible as you age. What we're witnessing is the creation of a two-tier system. Thailand is effectively splitting retirees into two categories: the wealthy who are welcomed with open arms and given preferential treatment, and everyone else who faces increasing obstacles. If you're a wealthy pensioner with $80,000 in annual income, Thailand wants you. You get your LTR visa, tax breaks, your fast track lanes. You're valuable. You're welcome. You're treated like a VIP. If you're a typical British retiree on a state pension of 12 to 15,000 pounds per year, you're tolerated, not celebrated. You can still come, but you'll navigate a maze of requirements, pay for mandatory insurance, maintain bank deposits, and receive no special consideration. You're not valuable enough for preferential treatment, but you're not unwelcome enough to be turned away. You're in limbo. This should anger you because it's fundamentally unfair. You worked hard, you paid your taxes, you did everything right, and now you're being told your retirement is only valuable if you're wealthy? The Thailand that marketed itself as an affordable paradise for all retirees is now saying, actually, we prefer the rich ones. And the British government? They're complicit. By refusing to operate pensions in Thailand while operating them in countries like the Philippines or the United States, they're creating arbitrary winners and losers. There's no logical policy reason for this distinction. It's historical, political, and utterly unjustifiable. But successive UK governments have refused to fix it, leaving British retirees in Thailand to slowly sink. Let's talk about where this is heading. Because if you think the current situation is the new normal, you're wrong. It's going to get worse before it gets better, if it ever gets better. Thailand's government has explicitly stated they're shifting toward quality, high value tourists and residents. They're targeting 36 million foreign tourists by 2026. But they want wealthy tourists to stay in five-star hotels and spend lavishly, not backpackers on a budget. This philosophy extends to retirees. They want wealthy expats who buy property, invest in businesses, and contribute significantly to the economy. What does this mean for average British retirees? Expect continued tightening of visa requirements. Expect insurance costs to keep rising. Expect the financial thresholds for retirement visas to increase. Thailand is slowly raising the bar, making it harder and harder for modest income retirees to qualify. The frozen pension problem will worsen. The UK's triple lock is likely to continue for the mid 2020s, meaning British pensions will keep rising for those in the UK while yours stay frozen. The gap between what you receive and what you would have received will widen every year. By the time you've been retired in Thailand for 15 or 20 years, you could be missing out on hundreds of thousands of baht in cumulative lost increases. Exchange rate volatility will continue. The pound's stability depends on UK economic performance, and with ongoing uncertainty around trade relationships, inflation control, and political stability, the pound could weaken significantly. Every time it does, your purchasing power in Thailand takes a hit. And demographically, Britain's retiree population is aging and growing. More people will consider retiring abroad. But Thailand is making it clear they only want the wealthy ones. The middle class British retiree, the backbone of the expat community for decades, is being priced out, not with a dramatic announcement, but slowly, quietly, through death by 1,000 policy cuts. Now, I know I've painted a grim picture, But I'm not here to depress you. I'm here to give you the truth so you can make informed decisions. So let's talk solutions because you have options, even if they're not perfect. First, understand the frozen pension trap before you commit. If you're still in the UK and considering retirement in Thailand, factor in that your state pension will never increase. Run the numbers. Calculate what your pension will be worth in real terms in 10, 15, 20 years if it's frozen while inflation, even low inflation, continues. Make sure you have additional income sources, private pensions, investments, rental income from UK property. Do not rely solely on the UK state pension. Second, if you're already in Thailand with a frozen pension, consider the nuclear option. Move back to the UK temporarily. If you return to the UK and live there for 6 months, your pension can be unfrozen and will jump to the current rate, including all the increases you missed. Then, if you want, you can return to Thailand. Yes, your pension will freeze again, but you'll be starting from a much higher baseline. This isn't ideal, but and it disrupts your life. But for some people, recovering years of lost increases is worth 6 months of inconvenience. Third, diversify your locations. Don't make yourself entirely dependent on staying in Thailand. Maintain a UK address if possible. Keep UK bank accounts active. Consider splitting your time. Thailand has visa options that don't require year round residence. You could spend part of the year in Thailand and part in the UK or another country that operates pensions. This gives you financial flexibility and reduces your dependence on Thai policy remaining favorable. Fourth, if you have the means, consider upgrading to a wealthier tier visa. I know many of you will bristle at this because it feels like giving in to an unjust system. And it is unjust. But practically speaking, if you can afford the LTR wealthy pensioner route or even the Thailand elite visa, it provides long-term stability and protection against future tightening of standard retirement visa requirements. It's expensive, but it's insurance against policy risk. Fifth, build a financial buffer. Thailand requires 800,000 baht in the bank for retirement visas. Aim to have significantly more. 2 million baht, 3 million. As much as you can reasonably save. This buffer protects you against currency fluctuations, emergency expenses, and the slow erosion of your fixed income. It's your emergency fund and your insurance policy rolled into one. 6. Secure your insurance early while you're younger and healthier. Insurance premiums increase with age and medical conditions. If you're 60 and relatively healthy, lock in a policy now before you're 70 and facing much higher premiums or even denial of coverage. Look for policies with guaranteed renewal clauses that can't be cancelled based on age alone. 7th, stay informed and stay flexible. Follow policy changes. Join expat communities. Read forums. Watch channels like these. The retirees who get blindsided are the ones who aren't paying attention. The ones who adapt and survive are the ones who see changes coming and adjust before it's too late. Have contingency plans. Know what you'll do if visa requirements change again. Know where else you might retire if Thailand becomes unworkable. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And finally, advocate for change. Write to your MP. Join campaigns pushing for pension upgrading in all countries. The current system is indefensible, and the more noise British expats make, the harder it is for the government to ignore. Will they change the policy? Maybe not, but silence guarantees nothing changes. Here's what nobody wants to say out loud. For many middle-class British retirees, Thailand is becoming a bad deal. Not because Thailand isn't beautiful, not because the people aren't welcoming, but because the economic and policy landscape is shifting against you. The dream that was sold, The dream that 40,000 Britons bought into was based on a set of circumstances that no longer exists. Low barriers to entry, stable, predictable visa processes, affordable living that made fixed incomes workable, a government that welcomed retirees regardless of wealth. That Thailand is disappearing. In its place is a Thailand that tiers retirees by wealth, that constantly tightens requirements, that offers no protection against frozen pensions or currency fluctuations, and that has made abundantly clear they prefer the rich to the rest. This isn't Thailand being malicious. They're making rational economic decisions based on their national interest. They've decided that wealthy expats provide more economic value than modest income retirees. That's their prerogative. But it means British retirees need to stop viewing Thailand through rose tinted glasses and see it for what it is: a country that wants your money but increasingly questions whether you have enough of it to be worthwhile. The golden age of affordable retirement in Thailand for average British pensioners is over. You can still retire here, many do, but you need to go in with eyes wide open, understanding that you're facing frozen pensions, tightening visa rules, mandatory insurance, currency risk, property restrictions, and an aging out problem with insurance and healthcare. You're building a retirement on sand, and the tide is coming in. I started this by saying UK retirees drew the short straw, and I stand by it. No other major nationality faces the combination of frozen pensions, restrictive property laws, and increasing financial barriers that British retirees do. The double taxation is also a major issue discussed in the previous episode that should be considered. Americans get their Social Security increases, Australians get their pension adjustments, but Britons, you're on your own. Thailand was supposed to be the reward for a lifetime of hard work, the place where your pension, even if modest, could provide comfort and dignity. For some, it still does. But those people are increasingly the exception, not the rule. If you're watching this and you're already in Thailand, I hope I've given you information that helps you plan better. If you're considering retirement in Thailand, I hope I've given you reasons to think twice and plan carefully. And if you're in the UK government watching this, I hope you're ashamed of a pension policy that punishes British citizens for retiring in the wrong countries. This is the first episode in a series examining how different nationalities are faring in Thailand. UK retirees, as I've shown, have it particularly rough, but understanding your situation is the first step to navigating it successfully. Thailand can still be part of your retirement story, but it needs to be a story you write with full knowledge of the challenges, not a fantasy based on outdated information. Be smart, be flexible, be prepared, and never forget that in the new Thailand, wealth talks and everyone else is just hoping to be heard. That's the truth. And on this channel, that's what we do. We tell the truth about Thailand, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable, because you deserve to know what you're really getting into. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.